I first saw signs when I was a teenager. I was 13 years old and I kind of felt empty. And then by 18, I had a really elevated fear of abandonment and separation anxiety. But it wasn't until I was 25 or 26 that I received a clear diagnosis. When you have borderline personality disorder, your fear of abandonment is the biggest thing. And that comes into play with all kinds of relationships, including friendships and coworkers and romantic relationships. So, there have been times where the separation anxiety meant I'd have a panic attack every time we were separated, and I needed, reassurance and validation. There were other times where I isolated a partner from their friends to keep them from leaving me. And all of these scenarios ended in them leaving me, which of course just perpetuates the issue and cements my belief that people will leave me. At work, there's kind of a constant fear of being fired or left out of important conversations. One of the scariest things is when your lead or manager messages you and says, hey, I'm going to book some time with us tomorrow to chat, or hey, do you have a minute to chat? Then the time from that message until we meet becomes the longest period of my life, because I think I'm going to get fired or I did something wrong. And then I end up with the hot thought of, I'm never going to succeed in my career. Truly no escaping borderline personality disorder. It is a struggle. It is a personality disorder, so it's not a mood disorder. It is basically a 24/7 battle. So cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy have been total life changers for me. I was on many different medications. I tried a lot of different stuff, and it took several different medication combinations to then figure out what works for me. Eventually found the right one. And then I also changed my lifestyle to be more active, because that alleviates the anxiety portion. And, perhaps the most important thing of all was to start putting my eggs into different baskets rather than just one. So what I mean by that is previously I would put everything into my romantic or interpersonal relationships, and that's what I identified with. So when something went wrong with one of them, then my entire world fell apart. Now that I've accumulated hobbies and interests and I've nurtured close friendships, I am, way more stable on a daily basis because I have these things occupying my time and my mind. And, if any one of those things go wrong, my whole world isn't over. Years ago, it was very hard to find a therapist who would work with someone who had borderline personality disorder. So I was diagnosed in the hospital, and then after, my time in the hospital, it was hard to find someone who would take me on because we're considered difficult patients. What makes a great therapist for someone who has borderline personality disorder is someone who listens but challenges you. They're not just taking your word for it. We're there to get the tools to cope with existing in the real world every day. We often feel misunderstood and misrepresented. A therapist who is aware of those challenges is very important. When it comes to discussing your mental health with a doctor or therapist, there's no such thing as over-communicating. You can talk to them about your symptoms, your feelings, all of it. It is so important. That is the most important step, and I know it is a very scary step. But if you don't disclose that information, you might be going down a treatment path that isn't quite suited to your specific circumstances. So it's really important that you're clear and that you speak up. Nobody knows how you feel more than you. If you feel something is off or wrong, then absolutely you are the best judge of that. And, the other thing is that over time I've taken the shame and judgment and I've decided to just kind of own my own narrative. Nobody has held borderline personality disorder against me ever since. If someone can respect me for taking the time to explain to them my perspective and why I am the way I am, then that allows me to reclaim my narrative and be understood.